Can everybody hear me? Can either you unmute yourself or raise a hand or something?
Oh, there it is. You are on. Oh, I think I'm good.
You up.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, perfect. Still new to this webinar stuff, but thank you for joining us on this inaugural webinar. Let's see if I can make this full screen. Can you all see my screen still?
Yes.
Perfect. Jamie had asked me to talk in our first webinar with our new teachers, and one of the topics that we thought was really important was work-life balance. Whether you're a new teacher, a couple years in, or a veteran teacher, it's stressful to balance it all, and there's some research out there to help us balance and make sure that we last and are successful in teaching and can provide for our students. So a little bit about me. For those of you that don't know me, I'm taught in Wisconsin for 5 years. I graduated from River Falls and then taught in Gillette in Northeast Wisconsin, and currently out at Oregon State as a graduate teaching assistant in the Agricultural Education and Agricultural Sciences Department. And so I'm working with our pre-service teachers out here, as well as our leadership minor and some ag communication courses. One of the quotes that I've read in my life that has stuck with me the most is a quote from Dr. Ed Osborne, who is an ag ed teacher educator. And in 1992, in an editorial in the Ag Ed magazine, he wrote that ag ed is a profession that literally devours its young. That has some impact. I think we've all had those days where we think, how can we do this any longer? We're trying to be the best program in the school. We're trying to increase enrollment in our programs, be active in our community, have an amazing FFA chapter, have all of our students with amazing SAEs. We're trying to teach elementary school students about ag literacy. We're doing public relations, letting everybody know about all the cool things we're doing. We're having a constant need to revise curriculum. We have a high number of preps. It's not shocking that work-life balance is a topic that comes up in our lives. So I'm basing the tips that I give you. There's 3 P's: prioritizing, planning for balance, and productivity, from Dr. Tyson Sorensen, who's at Utah State, whose dissertation was on work and family balance. For those of us that have families or want to have families, how can we manage everything so we stay sane and everybody's happier, at least satisfied? So looking at prioritizing, really getting down to what's important, whether it's on a daily basis or a year or your 5-year plan, but looking at what is most important to you. Is it your family, friends, faith, your health, making sure you're getting exercise, eating right? So your students, your career, do you have aspirations and goals that you want to reach? I think for most of us, all of those are important, but where do they rank is something that you should really look at, and making a list of those items would be important in how you can plan your schedule, and we'll talk about planning for that balance, but really thinking about what is important, and not feeling guilty for taking time for yourself or for family, going to church on Sundays if your faith is important. You need to take care of yourself and all those other aspects outside of the classroom. Also, focus on teaching. Remember that FFA chapters aren't going to exist if your ag program isn't there. Your numbers are really low in ag because things just aren't being taught. or you're not focusing on your teaching, that's not going to be good for anybody. Also, to be able to transition from what you're teaching every day to how to teach it, and thinking about why are you doing the things that you're doing in your program, whether it's hydroponics, building a new greenhouse, raising animals. Is it because it fits in your curriculum, because there's need in the community that will help student success, or is it because it's a hobby, or the egg program down the road has a new hydroponic system, so we need one too? I think there's definitely being on the cutting edge is important, but just trying to keep up with the schools in your county or in the state isn't as important as doing what's right for your students. If that's something that's important for your community, then absolutely go for it, but don't overburden yourself with topics and things that aren't as important as they might be for somebody else in a different program and community. The second tip is planning for balance. So what can you do to help alleviate some of the stress that you might be feeling, or making sure that you're balancing everything well? One is planning with a purpose, having a schedule. So whether it's I'm going to be at school at this time and I'm going to leave by this specific time, no buts. Whether it's planning on Mondays I'm going to stay late, and then on Tuesdays I'll go home early to spend time with my family, or just to have some me time, or go get groceries or do laundry. Taking care of yourself is important. Planning family and friend time and letting other things be planned around that is important. Family shouldn't come last. And then also setting aside time to get work done. That goes along with planning around your priorities, making sure you have time for those items. If you made a list of your top priorities, your number one priority should have the most time with it. There's some ebbs and flows as the year goes on, or different activities take precedence, but still you should be following that no matter what's going on. And then plan to utilize volunteers, so whether it's alumni, community members, parents, other students, FASers, delegate. You don't have to do everything, nor should you. So really thinking about what's necessary, what you need to accomplish, and what other people can help accomplish with you. And then the third one is productivity, and making sure you're using your time wisely. I know I'm guilty of not always being as efficient as possible, but really thinking about blocking out time to work or get grade for 1 hour after school and having that on a calendar and trying to stick to it, and being realistic with time. So how long is it actually going to take for you to accomplish the items on your to-do list? If you're like me, you maybe put a little bit more on that list than it can actually reasonably be accomplished. And then also delegating. Thinking about when you're productive as well. I'm more of a morning person, but for my 5 years in the high school classroom, I was burning the midnight oil trying to make sure I was prepared for the next day, and I was never as efficient as I could have been had I been able to make the switch in my sleeping habits. In all of this, you really want to think about what's best for you as well. I just flew back from Wisconsin to Oregon yesterday, and watching the flight attendants, when they give directions for putting your oxygen masks on, you're supposed to put your own on first before you help anybody else. You need to do that in your life too. Ag teachers are pretty amazing people, and we can do lots of things, but if we're not taking care of ourselves, then it's not going to matter anyway. Thinking about what's most productive, how we work well. Sometimes it might feel like you're never going to get anything done, that there isn't enough time, and there truly isn't. And that's why prioritizing and being able to plan or prioritize. Also, be as efficient as possible. It might take some trial and error to figure out, am I a morning person? How long does it actually take me to, update my grades once a week or do the grade book or, have an officer meeting or plan for phone calls and fundraiser items. Watching where your time is spent is important as well. So with that, if there's any questions or any tips that you all have for each other on how to balance your home life and work and not go crazy and be efficient, this is a time to discuss those.
Who's all on here? Is it just me, or is there somebody else, or what?
Casey, are you
There's
there?
a hand, Jeff.
Sorry. I unmuted myself, sorry.
Who's all on? I'm just kind of curious about that.
Stacy Cundy, brilliant.
All right.
Troy Telford from the Sauk Prairie.
Jamie Propson, Michigan.
Jeff Noiser, West of here.
We also have a handful of other attendees, but they may not understand the mute, unmute button, and it looks a little bit different than I view yours.
It says I'm on like listen only.
Oh, you want to come in?
Sure.
Chelsea's here.
Can they see me? No. Can they hear me?
They can hear you.
Oh, they can just hear me. Chelsea Galinsky from Howard's Grove.
So, Kelly, I guess one of the questions that I would have for you is when you're talking about your health, I know that's something that I struggle with personally is that sleep factor and how do you balance the amount of sleep necessary? And I know that's something you had talked on a little bit. Do you have any more specific tips maybe for people or tricks you've learned throughout the process? All right, Kelly, I'm not sure if you're trying to communicate there, but we're not hearing you. So I don't know if there's a way to unmute.
No. How about now? No.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry, I'm still new at technology. So I heard a little bit talking about health. Can you rephrase that? I apologize.
I was just asking, I know you talked a little bit about the sleep factor, but anything else with maintaining health? I know that I struggle with, I feel like I'm getting sick and I should probably just lay in bed and take it easy, but here I am at 7 o'clock at night on a random night working at school. And so I don't know what that best piece is. I guess that's one piece I kind of struggle with, if anyone has any other tips.
Yeah, well, I am not maybe the best person to be giving out health advice, but I can say that taking time to, even like on those late nights where you're there till 7, 9 o'clock, before all 9 meetings, I would go and take a walk, or I would try to eat healthier foods. Now that I'm in grad school, I'm still in the office later at night, but I'll take a break and go home and just sit down out of the office or go to yoga. It's making time for it and planning and making it a priority instead of putting it on the back burner. Because it's easy to do. Like other people are a lot of times more important to us than ourselves. But if we're not around or we're not at our best, we really can't help as much as we want. So trying to make sure, like for me, sleep is important because otherwise I get crabby and confused. But just taking time to get outside, to take a walk, eat healthier is important. So if anybody else would have tips, feel free to share.
This is Troy Telford. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
One of the things that I would suggest is that, first of all, you have to find, what is your productive time of the day? For me, I'm a morning person, and my most productive time of the day is before school. So I choose to get up early and go in, and I'll be honest, by the end of the day, I'm exhausted and I'm tired. And, I know that if I stay at school late, I don't get as much done as efficiently as I could. So you choose to kind of make that as, you have to find what's your productive time and use that to your advantage. But then, talking with Kim Hauser, her advice is always, sometimes you just have to take a mental break day. And, realistically, if you sit back and you look at it and you say, well, are my students going to remember that I was gone on that one day? Is it going to be a big deal if I take a day? You know what? And sometimes you just need that to mentally recharge yourself. And, I know that we even say that we should use it just for ourselves, but sometimes it's just to get those projects done that you just don't have enough time to get done with everything else in the daily grind of teaching. So it's okay to take those days now and then, and I'm not saying that you should take them every single Friday, but if you don't, yeah, you certainly do hit that wall with your health, and, I had it happen to me this fall. You just finally get so broke down that your body just shuts down and gets sick and tells you to knock it off. So you got to find those breaks.
Any other questions people have, or maybe tips you can share about your own experiences?
Well, how about from the new teachers in terms of, what are the things that you struggle with the most with finding that balance?
Planning curriculum.
Hate to tell you.
It doesn't get better.
Well, and just when you think you get your curriculum figured out, they tell you that you've got a new system.
Yeah. Next year I'm in curriculum review. Though all CTs are in curriculum review, so at least we got the head start this year.
Yeah. And it's going to be an ebb and flow, and the thing really when you look at curriculum is, figure out what are your basic things that you need to accomplish from what they ask you to do, and, but really think about what's the impact that could have on my program. I know we're switching to a trimester schedule for next year, and they're making us do curriculum maps and all this kind of stuff. And, while it is frustrating, at the same time you look and say, maybe this is a time to figure out what do I want to keep and what do I want to dump and what do I want to do differently. And
I absolutely love the trimester. It's just nice that you just focus on 5 classes. I'm only teaching 4 classes a day, and it is perfect. I love the trimester, the trimester. So definitely don't be frustrated with it.
I find that being a really good saver helps me with curriculum time too, whether that's putting it in a flash drive or on a website, which is what I do. If it's making really good notes to yourself, it pays off to take the time the first time rather than thinking 2 years ago, oh yeah, what did I do? And so I try to be thoughtful as I save.
I will say interactive notebooks has helped me with grading this year, though. So that's a plus.
How so, Stacy?
Well, I try to plan it, so I'm like, I have 6 classes I have this semester. So every week I have 1 class that I'm doing notebook checks, at least 1 class. So every 6 weeks I'm doing notebook checks, but I'm on 8-hour schedule at the high school and trimesters at the middle school. So then every 6 weeks, no matter what, everything is up to date. So it's just really helped me with keeping a rotation, and like I know every Friday I'm going to have somebody's notebook from one of my classes. So then I know this, and I keep a tally on these are things that I'm checking to see where they're at, what I need to put into the grade book. I already checked them, but now I have to put them into the grade book. So I do the quick checks when we do in-class assessments, but then I can go back, and it's just helped me to keep things organized. Helps my students to keep things organized. When we have tests or quizzes, we can reference things right away. So lots of organization.
That's awesome. I think it's finding a system that works, and you might go through a few systems that don't work before you figure out what makes your life easier. And that's frustrating, but important.
Does anybody do standard-based grading?
Are you guys switching to that?
No, I have standard-based grading at the middle school, so if anybody knows an expert on that, send them my way.
I believe Anna Walsdorf at Montello,
Oh, sure.
I believe she has been switching over to that.
We're switching over at one of those years, so I have like a hybrid system of like how I do that. And it does make grading so much easier. Yeah. I'll send you some handouts and kind of like a brief explanation of how I do it. Yeah. Because it also puts more of it on them instead of you. Because like the practice, like I just don't count it as much. And then
Yeah, I was just looking at the experts list from WAY to see if there was anyone with standard-based grading, and there is none. So I'm going to go ahead and add that category so that hopefully we can pull on some experts, as many ag departments are moving that way.
And actually, I could probably look at my computer. There's show you things.
Anything else you feel that maybe you're struggling with, or you can get some tips from experts here?
What are some great lab sources? Because I feel like what I do right now is I go to community practice or the new teacher jump drive that we got at that time, and either I use one off of there or I piece one together. Do you guys have any really great resources that it's kind of like your go-to to do labs besides those two?
Are you looking at a specific class, Stacy?
Well, I have a new natural resources class next semester in wildlife.
I would say Project Wild.
Oh, sure. Yep.
Those have some activity, not so much labs, but that would be a resource. Like, what are you envisioning as being labs? So we have a better idea of what you're looking for.
Well, to put it in perspective a little bit, so I'm going to be in, winter time for the first, 3 months of natural resources. So things that I can do in the classroom that I guess, I can do in the classroom or I could do outside that would, I don't know.
Like interactive activities where you're not just giving them notes and they actually get to do
Right. Yeah.
I know one of the things that both Kim Hauser and I both do, we do some stuff with compasses and GPSs, and we've done a workshop at PDC, and I think we're going to be breaking it out again this summer. But starting off teaching them how to use a compass. I don't know in your particular area, Stacy. There are some forestry kits around in the area.
Well, I have 2 sets of compasses, so we're set on compasses.
Okay, perfect. So I would start there, and that's something that you can do indoors, in the hallways or whatever. But there's some different activities. If you go to forestry suppliers, and you look at like their educational resources, they have some lessons that kind of walk you through some activities that you can do with compasses, and I think they have some for GPS systems too. So I don't know. Do you have GPSs at all, or?
Old ones. I'm
It doesn't
not sure they even turn on.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they power on, it doesn't matter if they're new or old. I've got some that are probably 20 years old, and I got some that I just got this year, but they still function the same way. They still follow the same principles, and so you can do some of that kind of stuff. You can teach them how to do geocaching.
Oh, yeah.
And, so if you haven't done that, check out geocaching.com. And then I just, if you don't have any geocaches near your school, we just make our own, and I have them create their own geocache course on the school grounds. And then they exchange them with one another, and then they go and find them and all that fun stuff. But then there also should be, there are some forestry kits around the state that I want to say Section 7 may have put together, like that's their committee through WAY. And so I think they have kits located around the area that you can check out for a couple of weeks at a time. They have all sorts of kind of supplies and things in it, so you don't have to go and buy stuff.
Great, thank you.
something that I'll piggyback off of that with is that I have a lot of success with having kids make their own YouTube videos. So in small animal science right now, they're making their own videos explaining how to do these traits. And I think that's something that you could do with tree measurements, how to use a Biltmore stick, how to take core samples, and while they're learning how, they could be teaching others, and then that's a reference you can put in your arsenal for when you have maternity leave or something where you can't physically teach it.
I've got a question if anybody can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you there.
Okay. I hear a lot about people trying to detach away from electronics oftentimes, or like digital life, especially when it's tied to work. Has anybody had success in either balancing that or harmonizing that with work and, God forbid, our own personal lives by chance?
Like,
Zach, this is Kelly. I've deactivated my Facebook account before because I just didn't need other outside factors or seeing other, like, all the things that I wasn't doing but wanted to do from my friends. That's been hard. Otherwise, also just turning off my phone at times, which is hard. And either working and focusing or just being like, I can't handle anything that's related to an A classroom right now, and I just want to be by myself. There's also some apps that I've used that like block other apps to help encourage me to focus on what I need to focus on. Guess is that kind of what you were looking at, or?
Yeah, certainly. I just wanted to see like what other, how that's been implemented before, or what other people do about it, if other people do anything about it, or if it's just something that you kind of just go along with. So I appreciate that.
It's hard to do, but it's something good to practice every now and then.
Certainly. Certainly.
What about anybody else? Have you had any luck kind of detaching from social media or technology, or found that it was helpful at all?
I almost like use it as a break though, almost, because like when I'm at school, I almost like forget that I have my phone. Like I never look at it, and I don't know if it's because I have it like put away and so I don't see it and I forget about it. The only issue is sometimes like when I'm at home, like it feels like I'm at home and then I like should be like relaxing, not doing like school stuff, so I'll sit on my phone because it's one of the only things I have at home, but I also know that there's stuff that I bring home and I have to do, and I bring it home so that I can come home and eat and get some things done instead of having to take so much food with me to school. But I just kind of use it as like a bonus to myself. So like I'll set a goal to work for like half an hour, 45 minutes, and then I can go sit on my phone for like 5. And then I can go back to work. So I kind of use it as like a break. I don't really have the issue of like having it be a distraction. And when it is, I just kind of use it as a tool or like a treat for myself. Like I can go do this for 5 minutes and get my mind off of what I'm working on. And actually, sometimes it's a bigger problem for me to check it, especially with emails. My school has this really weird system right now because we just switched everything over to Google and we're one-to-one this year. So everybody else is kind of depending on it more. And they said, do you check your email? I sent you an email about this and whatnot. And I feel like I don't check it enough, and I have it connected to my phone, but like I said, I don't always have it with me either, and I don't have like a good system for checking that.
So that without a smartphone, I would not be able to keep up with my work-life balance because being able to delete the emails that don't pertain to me is really, really important to me. You know, some people put listserv emails directly into a folder and then look through them when they get time, and sometimes that's helpful for people so you don't get I don't know if any of you struggle with if your inbox. I certainly do.
Hey, Jamie, it's really hard to hear you. I think we just kind of missed, at least I did. I don't know if anybody else did. Missed what you said.
No, I agree. It was a little tough to hear you.
What Jamie was saying was that there are some people that will go through and they will set up filters so that any of the emails that come across as listserv will automatically dump into a folder within their email account. Which, you know, if one of the things you struggle with during the day is to balance out your emails and what's coming in, you know, that's a really good way of being able to then say, okay, what do I need to go through right away versus what can take some time. You know, and like in our situation, I get an email from a high school group, I get emails from the middle school group, the national listserv, the state listserv, you know, so your email inbox can fill up very quickly. So if you can figure out a way to set up those filters, that'll save out some time.
This is Kelly again. To add on to that, I think email can be a beast, as Troy and Jamie both alluded to, but giving yourself set times to maybe check your email could be helpful. You know, 30 minutes to actually go through it. But I feel like there's a balance between being tied to your phone and always being available for emails, always being available for text messages, questions, always being on, that it becomes hard to prioritize and focus. And you know, there may be weekends where I'm with friends, but I click on my email because I'm bored or just wanted to check it, and then I see all these emails that come up and feel like I should be answering them, but I'm with friends and family. And then I feel guilty, and then that doesn't help my work-life balance because I'm balanced but stressed. So it's finding what works. I read a lot of productivity websites and tips for handling emails and different things like that with the filters until I found something that worked. But giving yourself time to either read the email or to not read it and focus on something else as well. Does anybody else have any tips or items that they would share on being efficient, whether it's with emails or paperwork, planning?
Something that I do, and I'm not an expert by no means, but I keep my calendar in Google Docs. Each week I have a grid system that I have every day in my classes, and then in the top of my grid right away I have my personal life, my school life, and then FFA life, and I break it down to a checklist of things I need to get done, and I prioritize and I put times behind it. So if that means at, like tonight, 4:30 to 5:30 I'm going to work out in my personal life on Monday, I'm going to put that in there. And on the days that I don't get my calendar up to date, I'm lost. But it really is helpful too, because if my students ask me if we can meet after school, I can quickly go to my calendar, which also has my curriculum on there too, and like what we're doing in class every week, and say, yep, I can meet with you after school. And the same thing goes, I mean, if they have days out of the week when they're gone. So putting a grid system together that I can access anywhere, because I have in Google and I can access it on my phone, has been really, really helpful for me. And I share it, I've shared it with my PLC group when we're working on things together, so they can see how the class is progressing and where their part in the class is going to help or come into play.
Well, and I think you do hit on a good point there in terms of like the organizing. Have that document. If anything, you look at what is a big chunk of your day. A big chunk of your day is teaching, and so if you can just lay out a grid that you can quickly look at, it's not necessarily like an all-out lesson plan, but it's a simple table that can just say, this is what I'm going to be doing today in this class, and this class. And, if you force yourself to sit down and look at that, I usually try to do mine by Thursday the week before. So that way, when I come to Monday, because I hate Mondays, and I'm not sure many people love them, but, you get to Monday and you are just so overwhelmed with trying to get everything going for the week. If you at least have an idea what you're accomplishing each day for that week, it makes your life so much less stress. So, if you don't do that already, just put together a simple grid. And I want to say NAAE, if you don't like to do it electronically, has ones that you can print off, like little planner things, your weekly planners. Go ahead and use that. Whatever is your system. But just have a general idea what you're going to accomplish each day, and that'll make things so much less stressful for you throughout the week.
Right.
This is Kelly again. I just added that planning calendar that Troy mentioned to the handout section of the control panel that you may or may not have access to. If you could let me know whether you got that or not, I can send it out as well.
Yeah, Kelly, would you send that out? 'Cause I don't know how.
I just clicked on it, Kelly, and I was able to access it, so thank you.
Okay. Do you see it, Stacy?
No, but I have my, not that I don't want to use ONAAs, but I have my system pretty well done.
Yeah.
It
You
works
won't-
for me.
Won't mess with the good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I would have to say it's pretty successful. One of our tech ed guys is like, hey, can you send me that? I want to start using that.
I think it's like magic happens when you actually figure out a system that works.
I would agree.
I needed a to-do list with mine, so I needed like a day-by-day what am I doing, but each day has its to-do list too, and I look at the top 3 things, and that was my magic, but that doesn't work for everyone.
Kelly, do you see my apartment right now? Because my to-do list is sitting right next to me with that same thing.
I don't, but I understand. Yeah, and that's part of the prioritizing, like on your to-do list, what's most vital? What could you delegate to somebody else or a student or an officer? Think about what's urgent but also most important. What's a necessity rather than what you're doing at school, maybe for fun, but you need fun stuff too, so it's all about a balance, and you have to figure that out on your own, which is tough. But we're here to help give ideas and suggestions and talk through things, because that's how we get to the magic.
I guess one thing that I'll just throw out there, that I know that, as new teachers, you have a lot on your plate and a lot of things to kind of figure out. One of the things, and unfortunately it took me a lot longer to figure out in my teaching career, is figure out how to utilize the partners in your communities. One of the big things that has been a push from some of us is through the help of like our FFA alumni. Really find what are some things that they can do to come in and help you with. If you are not doing surveys of your alumni, you should be doing that. A good example is, a lot of people are dealing with fruit sales right now. I just put an email out to my alumni group last night and said, okay, on Tuesday of this week, we have our initial fruit orders, and our final orders are due on next Monday. Is there anybody that has the day off and they'd like to come in and help do that data entry into our system? And I've already got 3 volunteers that have said, just let me know, I will be there. And, the thing is, we just don't ask. And that's our biggest problem, is that we're afraid to ask. And I know that as a new teacher, you don't want to ask at times because it makes you feel like you're not competent to do a job. But I'm here telling you that it took me 8 years to be able to ask that question, and I wish I would have done it a lot sooner. So really think about how can those partners help you out throughout your career.
Okay, I have a quick question, and this, I know Regina can help me. I don't have an alumni. I want an alumni. Have any of you started your alumni as the new teacher, and when is a good time to start it? Because that's my biggest struggle right now. I would love to have started at the same time I started teaching in Brilliant, but I knew that was not possible because I needed to get my feet on the ground a little bit.
I think part of what you have to look at is a lot of times people misunderstand what the purpose of the alumni is. That while yes, eventually they can be that fundraising source for you, right now in your teaching career, that may not be what your needs are. You have to figure out what your needs are, and if your needs are that you need help with organizing and planning and doing some of these kind of things, like that's where you need to kind of pull them in, and that's why I'll refer back to this survey, and it's available through the National Alumni Resources. Where start with your parents, and elementary teachers have it figured out to a T that they bring parents into the classrooms all the time. It's just at high school they just don't know to ask for you to, or for them to come in and help. And we have to just do a better job of that as teachers, is to just say, I need some help with this particular area, but you got to be specific with what you need. And by going through and doing that survey, that's what can be super helpful, because you can find where people's strengths are. I know Rachel Savala up at New Richmond has talked numerous times about this, and she hasn't gone shopping for school supplies in 2 or 3 years because she's got a list of people that have said, you let us know when you need something picked up, we'll go pick it up. And so, she has built it in, kind of like your to-do list, where she now makes a shopping list. Instead of her going and doing the shopping, she sends alumni members to go do it. So it's finding ways of having them help you, and it's not so much that they have to be raising the money to do that, but the other piece of that is that, so I sat there and said, okay, I'm going to put out all these surveys, and so now I have to figure out how to go through all the surveys. Well, conveniently, one of the parts of the survey is somebody who likes to do data entry. So what did I do last year? I took all the surveys, and as they came in, I put them in a folder. And then once I got them all in, I gave that folder to one of the people that said that they like doing data entry. She put it in an Excel sheet, and now within seconds I can open up the document. It can to go to for whatever task, and it's right there.
Hey, Troy.
Yeah.
What kind of questions did you ask on your survey? Was it just simple stuff, or what were you kind of looking for an answer from them?
Yeah, it was just basic. It's a checklist is all it is. And so like it gives me a few things in terms of, ideas for guest speakers in classrooms, people who would be willing to drive, who would be willing to be an overnight chaperone or a daytime chaperone. It's just a variety of different things. And I'm going to try to look here as we talk on the website to see if I can find the one at the National Alumni. But it's a great thing to do, and like I said, I wish I would have thought of it a lot sooner in my career, because there's so many little things that you can ask them to do and they will just do it for you. And part of it is because some of them don't want to do the fundraising. They would rather just, help with some of these little tasks. So as soon as I find that, I'll put that in the little notes thing on here.
All right, thank you.
That is if I can get logged into the FFA website.
going to try this again and see if you can hear me better. We would like to thank Kelly for facilitating this first session. And if you have feedback or suggestions for the improvement, please make sure to let myself know and we can continue to improve.
And I think I just found the link, but I don't know how to post it. Yeah. Yeah. I'll send an email out on the listserv tomorrow with the survey that I put together, or if anything, I'll just have a link. I can tell you that if you wanted to look at it yet tonight, if you go to FFA.org under the alumni portion, you have to get logged in to see all the behind the scenes like anything else with the FFA website. But under alumni chapter resources, if you go all the way to the bottom of that, there are some different things under ag education and FFA program development, and they call it the volunteer resource inventory. And so it's a whole checklist of things. You know, it asks for their areas of expertise, and then it asks what their skills and services are that they would enjoy helping with, or resources that they can provide. So there's all sorts of different stuff. And then you can, you know, add to it, you know, like on ours, we put specific alumni activities, so that way we know when we have an alumni event coming up who would be interested in helping with it, so that way it gives my committees a little bit more direction. But ask them to help, because they won't do it unless you ask. A good example was cutting of cheese for my cheese tasting. I hate doing that job. And I had 2 alumni members that volunteered. I picked up all the cheese, and magically it showed up the next day and it was all cut.
Perfect. Thank you, Troy, for sharing that. And for everyone, think about who to invite next time. I think this is a good tool, and the more we use it, the better it will be, especially when we don't have all that time to travel or search for resources on our own, where if we can share with each other, it's very powerful. And sometimes informal conversations like this have more knowledge than a really well-prepared workshop. And plus, it's nice to hear some familiar Wisconsin voices out here on the West Coast. So thank you for letting me join you all tonight.
Thank you, Kelly.